Hey guys, John here from Bring the SEO. Today's short presentation, wanted to cover how to build a profitable SEO agency in 6 months or less. Now, I know that sounds like a big ask. It certainly is a big claim, but stick with me. I think by the end of this presentation, you'll have a good understanding of why I think this is possible and why many SEO consultants often go on to struggle for years and years, and of course how you can avoid making those same mistakes. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at some of the most common frustrations faced by many SEO consultants. And this, I should point out that this is not limited to those just getting started, those that are just getting started looking to build out their agency. This is also applicable to many SEO consultants that have been in the game for some period of time that are still facing these same challenges. So let's go through them. Firstly, I can't get any clients and I'm wasting so much time chasing dead-end leads. Now, as we all know, client acquisition, getting leads, getting clients, that is without question one of the biggest challenges when it comes, to building a successful SEO agency. And when you're stuck chasing leads and certainly spending a great deal of time, doing that, it can be tremendously exhausting. So that, without question, is one of the biggest frustrations. The next point that I've got here is I'm struggling and literally living month to month, project to project. Now, SEO by nature isn't typically a one-time project, but if you've got low retention rates and you're bringing clients on board, especially if it's taking you, 6 months to get a client and they leave in 3, then you're going to be constantly working in arrears in the sense of, client acquisition. And this can be incredibly frustrating. The next point here is I feel like I'm working my ass off, but not getting anywhere. And this is something that comes up a lot on my coaching calls in that, many SEO consultants are doing a million different things. They're not doing any of those things well. They're working 80 hours a week. And at the end of the month, they've got nothing to show for it. And that can be incredibly discouraging. And frankly, it's enough to make many, and this is a common problem in itself, suffer from burnout and want to quit. And lastly, why does everyone else seem to have it figured out except me? And this is something, again, that comes up in my coaching calls, where it seems that, and maybe social media is somewhat responsible for this. There's nothing more frustrating for an SEO consultant to think that they can't get clients, they're not making money, their business is a mess, yet everyone else has got it figured out, and they're sipping cocktails on the beach at Bali. Now, the reason for all of these problems, challenges, and frustrations is that you set yourself up for failure right from the beginning. So if we think about it, many of these frustrations are caused by any number of these problems. Firstly, you're just the same as everyone else, and your offer sucks. Secondly, you don't know who you're targeting or what an ideal client looks like, and that's a huge problem. I'll circle back to that one in just a second. Next, you're trying to sell SEO to prospects that aren't even interested. I see this all the time. And lastly, you don't have a sales process, and getting clients is based upon hope and guesswork. But the biggest and most common problem that I see when working with SEO consultants, and I tell them this all the time, you've wasted time on stupid shit. But what does that actually mean? Let's take a look now at a typical timeline that most SEO consultants go through in terms of, getting started in their SEO agency, getting clients, building a client base, trying to make money, provide, SEO services and do all of those things. This is what I see time after time. So let's start by looking at the first step, which is, fussing about designing a website. Without question, all SEO consultants start here. Designing a fancy website. Okay, if I'm going to start an SEO agency, I need to have this wonderful looking site because who's going to want to work with me if I don't have a professional looking website? Well, you'll see why that's a problem in just a moment. But when it comes to designing a fancy website, sometimes it can be weeks, other times it can be months of time wasted. And this time is wasted fussing about over colors, branding, the logo, what they're going to call the business, the domain name, all of these things combined usually, as I said, can go on to waste weeks or even months of time. That's then typically followed by, well, we need to be able to demonstrate that we know what we're doing. And the best way to do that and attract clients is by ranking our own site. And I see these conversations going on all over the place, especially within Facebook groups. You need to rank your own site. I can tell you right now that when it comes to the types of leads that you get through Google search, I've always thought it's quite ironic. The worst types of leads that you can get for SEO are SEO leads. But ranking your own site, again, a tremendous amount of wasted time here trying to rank your own site. Next, and again, this is typical, wasting time messing about with social media and software. And this is where you'll spend time setting up your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook business page, your Facebook profile, maybe an Instagram page, all of these social media accounts. You've got not only your copy, but you've got your creatives and your imagery and all of this other stuff tied in with, those never-ending questions around what software do I need? What plugins are best for SEO? Should we sign up with, SEMrush? Should we use Ahrefs? Which is better? Again, it's nothing but wasted time. The next point here is, and this is something that I see a lot of SEO consultants doing, and it's a huge problem. This is wasting months creating content that no one cares about. Now I could create, and I probably will at some point, I could create an entire presentation just on this topic alone. But usually this problem comes about because, due to bad advice. Hey, if you want to get clients, you've got to start a podcast. Hey, if you want to get clients, you better start creating, publishing blog posts, or you better start a YouTube channel. And that's all well and good. And there's certainly nothing wrong with doing that, but it shouldn't come before you actually know exactly who it is that you're serving. Otherwise, you end up creating content that not only no one cares about, but that content's aimed at no one, which is a great way to go about wasting an enormous amount of time. And then finally, we get to a point after wasting all of this time, effort is made towards trying to get clients. And to be fair, some of that effort might come into play, in various stages. You might start trying in here somewhere, but typically this is what I see. So finally, effort made towards trying to get clients. So you've just invested all of this time, you've done all these things. Now it's time to go out there and try to get clients. But what you find is 12 months has gone by, you've maybe signed up 1 or 2 clients and you've got nothing to show for it. You've got no money, there's no cash flow, there's nothing. You've done all of these things and you've got nothing to show for it. The problem is you've just wasted all of this time mucking around with stupid shit. The right way to do it is to not do any of this. Instead, start here. Now, I can't stress this point enough. You must validate by selling first. So instead of wasting time on stupid stuff, like I said, building a website and having cards printed and polo shirts and all of these other things, and then running around the internet chasing clients and trying to sell, you need to sell first, then build. So let's take a look at the validation process. I want you to understand the importance of the validation process and how it works. There are 3 main points here. The first one, define your niche. Figure out what niche you intend on targeting. This is tremendously important, and this ties in with the whole, specializing, niching down, specializing, and being able to charge a premium. Next, define an ideal client. You must know exactly what an ideal client looks like. I've said this in a number of my videos now. How do you expect to find something if you don't know what it looks like? It doesn't make any sense. So you need to be able to clearly define what an ideal client looks like. The size of the company, how long they've been in business, annual revenue, existing marketing budget, number of staff, all of those things need to be taken into consideration. And lastly, define your offer. Okay, you need to be able to clearly define the value proposition. And, I've got in brackets here, sell the solution, not a service. Sell a solution, not a service. So, talk about offer with many of my coaching students or coaching clients. And I'll ask them, what's your offer? And they'll say, okay, well, our offer is SEO, and we give them the client, we give our clients 10 backlinks and 5. That's not the offer. The offer is the goal, or the objective, or the outcome, the desired outcome. That's your offer. Now, my next point here is validate your hypothesis. And this might sound fancy, but this is simply a way of saying, let's validate what we assume to be true. Right? Because you can do all of these things that I mentioned just a moment ago. You can write down your niche, and you can scribble down who you think an ideal client is and your offer, but none of that is going to mean anything until you know it's actually true and it's going to work, right? So in order to validate your hypothesis, you need to know the niche is actually viable. It's a sizable market share. There's earning potential, and all of those things that I can't get into in this video that will tell you that the niche actually makes sense. Secondly, there's demand for our service offering, and clients are willing to pay high fees with little to no resistance. Okay, there needs to be demand, and your prospects need to be motivated and actually want what it is that you're trying to sell them. Next, generating leads is possible with no shortage of our desired client type. In other words, if we run Facebook ads or YouTube ads, or we do direct outreach, these people are actually reachable. We can penetrate the market and get to the people that we want to speak with, our desired prospect. And lastly, sales are straightforward and the numbers make sense. Okay, we're not going through a big, long, complicated sales cycle, and we have to jump through several hoops, and there's no margin there. The numbers need to make sense. We can get on a call, they're motivated, and we can sell them. The underlying message here is at the very beginning, focus on generating leads and selling. Now, there are 2 ways we can do this. Organic methods, such as cold email, cold calling, networking events, direct messaging, partnerships, and so on, or paid ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube or LinkedIn ads. Now, organic methods, let's start by looking at organic methods. Organic methods might be a viable option for you if you've got plenty of time but you have a limited budget. Use organic methods, but outsource or automate as much as possible, because you don't want to be sitting there for 6 months cold emailing and doing all of this stuff and not getting any sort of return on effort. So in order to fast track the process, and this is a method that many students within my SEO Accelerator program do, buy a list. Start with a list of targeted leads and using a service like Coldlytics. So instead of running around the internet with your hair on fire, operating at random, looking for people that, sell blue widgets, use a list building service who can provide you with a list, 500 or 1,000 of your ideal clients or prospects in that list, so that your efforts around outreach is targeted. And lastly, automate. Use services like Loom, Lemlist, and Google Sheets. You need to try and automate as much as possible. Now, paid methods. This is probably the best way to go about validating. Running lead ads. Now, at the very beginning of this presentation, I said, look, forget about building a fancy website. You might be thinking, well, where am I going to send these leads to if I don't have an online presence? You don't need an online presence if you're going to run, say, lead ads through Facebook. Facebook, there are many platforms where you can actually capture the lead's details right there on the actual platform without having to redirect them to a website. Now, if you are intent on having an online presence, you say, look, I'm not really comfortable with that. I prefer to have a site. That's great. You can do that, but don't spend 6 months on it. Put a 3 to 5 page website together, homepage, about, contact, and maybe, show some results. That's it. Next, be aggressive. You have to be aggressive because you want to test, you want to find the winner as fast as possible. You want to get to that desired end goal of securing clients. So you want to find what's going to work as quickly as possible. So be aggressive, run numerous variations at scale in order to find winners quickly. Now, I'm certainly not a paid traffic expert, and I would recommend that for those of you who are thinking about doing this, reach out to someone who is, so they can help guide you. But the whole point of this is to run paid ads in order to secure leads as quickly as possible. And lastly, test offers. Push paid traffic to offers that may not exist in order to test quickly. Now, that might sound a little bit confusing, but this is something that I've done numerous times. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you want to target plumbers and you think, okay, well, if I'm going to push them to an opt-in page, I need a lead magnet, a value asset, let's say. You don't want to spend 3 weeks creating a checklist and then putting everything together and then finding out that, after spending $1,000 that 2 people have opted in and no one cares. So the right way to do it is to simply create the opt-in and forget about the checklist. Now, of course, you can have 2 problems. 1, nobody opts in, which is great because you haven't wasted any time. Or 2, a whole bunch of people opt in and they're asking, where's my checklist? If that's the case, then you can stop the ad. You've tested, you've validated, you confirmed, you know it's going to work. You can then go about reaching out to everyone, apologizing, saying there's been a technical problem, then create the checklist and you can follow up. But what matters most is speed. I can't stress this enough. You've got to move quickly. And this is exactly why I've titled this presentation, build a profitable SEO agency in 6 months or less. You've got to move quickly. Now, I want to finish this presentation by revisiting our timeline that I shared at the very beginning of this presentation and showing you exactly how it should look. So as you can see, the first step, focus on getting clients. Focus on getting clients. Forget about all of that other stuff. Validate and sell. So validate the niche. Validate, who you believe to be your ideal client. Validate your offer. The best way to validate is, the best way to validate is by people actually paying you. Everyone will tell you they want something until they have to pay for it. So there's only really one way for you to validate, and that's by people actually transferring money into your account. There's no better way to validate than that. Then once you've validated and you're selling, bingo, you're on your way. Then you can go about designing a fancy site. You can set up your social media and start investing in software. And then, and only then, should you start creating content, podcast videos and everything else. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more, head over to bringtheseo.com. We provide business development training for SEO consultants wanting to improve their processes, increase profits, and scale to $100,000 a month or more without all the stress and overwhelm.